Stop scrolling. What if I told you that your tomatoes aren't growing as big, juicy, and flavorful as they could because of their neighbors? That's right, the plants you put beside your tomatoes can make them explode with fruit, taste sweeter, stay healthier, and even repel pests naturally. And today I'm revealing 20 companion plants that do exactly that. Some are herbs, some are flowers, and some might surprise you so much you'll wonder why you haven't planted them already. Stick around, because by the end of this video, your tomatoes won't just grow, they'll thrive like never before. And trust me, number 17 is a secret almost no gardener knows, but it could completely change your harvest. Welcome back to Urban Eden Garden, the place where small spaces, tight budgets, and everyday backyards turn into thriving, productive gardens. If you've been struggling to get your tomatoes to produce like you know they can, you're in the right place, because what most gardeners miss isn't water, sunlight, or fertilizer. It's the invisible relationships between plants. Tomatoes are social. They respond to who they're planted with. Put them with the right neighbors and they grow faster, produce bigger fruit, and resist pests. Put them with the wrong ones and they sulk, droop, and disappoint. Let's start with the first group, flavor boosters. Basil is the superstar here. If you've ever grown tomatoes without basil nearby, you're missing out on flavor levels you didn't even know existed. Basil doesn't just smell amazing, it releases compounds into the soil that your tomato plants absorb, improving growth and taste. Harvest it regularly and you'll see more flowers, more fruit, and sweeter, more aromatic tomatoes. Then there's parsley. It attracts beneficial insects like ladybugs, lacewings, and hoverflies that feast on pests like aphids and whiteflies. Plant parsley near your tomatoes and it quietly protects your plants. Chives are next. When they bloom, their purple flowers attract bees and pollinators that dramatically improve tomato fruit set, while their mild scent repels certain pests. Oregano rounds out this flavor-focused group. Its spreading habit acts as a living mulch, cooling the soil, suppressing weeds, and confusing pests with its strong aroma. Now let's talk about pest bodyguards. Marigolds are a classic for a reason. Their roots release chemicals that protect soil from nematodes, while their flowers attract ladybugs and deter hornworms. Nasturtiums are the perfect sacrificial plant. Pests prefer them over your tomatoes, so when aphids, caterpillars, or beetles show up, they go straight to the nasturtiums. When these plants get infested, you simply remove them and the problem collapses. Garlic is next. It repels spider mites and other pests naturally thanks to sulfur compounds released into the soil and air. Onions also make a perfect tomato neighbor. Their scent confuses hornworm moths and other common tomato pests, giving your plants extra protection. Next, we move to soil builders. Borage is incredible. It draws minerals from deep in the soil, strengthens tomato stems, attracts pollinators, and even deter hornworms. Plant it near tomatoes, and you'll notice stronger plants and larger fruit. Clover is another powerhouse. It acts as a living mulch, fixes nitrogen, reduces weeds, and keeps soil cool. Beans naturally fix nitrogen too, providing a steady nutrient supply for your tomatoes. Radishes act like soil drillers, breaking up compacted soil and creating channels that allow water and air to penetrate deeper. This makes tomato roots grow healthier, stronger, and more efficient at absorbing nutrients. Shade-loving plants can also help. Lettuce thrives in the shade of tomato leaves, keeping soil moist and reducing weeds. Spinach behaves similarly, holding moisture and growing quickly under tomato canopies. Kale is another excellent choice. It attracts leaf-eating insects away from tomatoes, acting as a decoy so your fruit remains untouched. Water management is crucial too. Sweet alyssum forms a low-growing carpet around tomatoes, conserving moisture while attracting ladybugs and hoverflies. Calendula is a game changer and one of the most underrated plants for tomatoes. It attracts pollinators, repels thrips, adds petals that can be used as mulch, and creates a microclimate that keeps roots hydrated. Plant enough calendula and your tomato fruit set will increase significantly with minimal effort. Growth accelerators round out our list. Carrots make natural channels in the soil, helping water reach deep roots and improving airflow. Celery has a subtle but important role. Its aroma confuses pests and its roots stabilize soil moisture, reducing fruit cracking. Peppers share nearly identical growing conditions with tomatoes. Plant them together and they complement each other perfectly. Both benefit from the same sunlight, water, and soil needs without competing, creating a harmonious and productive growing environment. By planting these 20 crops alongside your tomatoes, you're creating a self-sustaining ecosystem. Each plant plays a role, from attracting pollinators to repelling pests to improving soil fertility. You'll notice thicker stems, more flowers, larger fruit, and fewer pests. This system also saves money on fertilizer, mulch, and pesticides because the plants themselves are doing the work for you. This isn't just gardening, it's smart, strategic gardening that produces real results. Observation is key. Pay attention to how each companion performs. Take notes on which combinations produce the best growth, attract the most pollinators, or repel pests most effectively. Companion planting is flexible. It's a dynamic system that adapts to your garden every season. The 20 plants we've talked about create an environment where tomatoes thrive naturally, producing bountiful, flavorful harvests year after year. Timing is also critical. Herbs like basil, parsley, chives, and oregano should be planted early so they can shade the soil and attract pollinators. Marigolds, nasturtiums, garlic, and onions should be interspersed to provide constant pest protection. Clover, beans, borage, and radishes can be interplanted directly with tomatoes to enhance soil structure and nutrients. Lettuce, spinach, and kale grow beneath tomato canopies, while sweet alyssum and calendula form a living carpet around the base. Carrots, celery, and peppers should be spaced carefully to allow root and canopy growth. Doing this correctly dramatically improves yield and plant health. By the end of the season, your garden will be transformed. Tomatoes will grow with more vigor, flavor will increase, and pest problems will decrease naturally. Each plant contributes to a thriving ecosystem, and you'll see results that go far beyond anything achieved with fertilizers or chemicals alone. Companion planting is about creating balance, productivity, and abundance in your garden. The benefits multiply season after season, turning ordinary tomato beds into extraordinary growing systems.
Now, let's talk about the magic. Let's talk about the magic when all these plants work together.
All these plants
when you have tomatoes surrounded by basil,
chives,
oregano,
marigolds,
nasturtiums, borage,
clover,
borage,
radishes,
lettuce,
lettuce, spinach,
sweet alyssum,
kale,
calendula,
carrots,
calendula,
and
peppers,
celery,
your garden
and
stops
peppers.
being just a collection of plants. It becomes a living, breathing
becomes
system
a living,
where every
breathing
element
system
supports the
where
others.
every element
You'll
supports
notice
the
it
others.
almost immediately.
You'll notice it
Tomatoes
almost
develop
immediately.
stronger stems.
The tomatoes
The
develop
leaves
stronger
are a darker
stems.
green.
The
The
leaves
fruit
are a
sets
darker
faster.
green,
And you
the fruit
hardly
sets
see
faster.
pests.
And you hardly see
Pollinators
pests.
everywhere,
Pollinators
flower to
everywhere,
flower,
buzzing
increasing
from
your
flower to
harvest
flower,
without you
increasing
lifting
your
a
harvest
finger.
without you
And this isn't
lifting
just
a finger.
theory.
This is
And
the
this isn't just
exact
the
theory.
approach I've been
This
using
is
in my
the
own garden
exact
for
approach
years.
I've been using in my own
I
garden
started
for
small,
years.
experimenting with
I started
few
small,
companion plants
experimenting
around my
with
tomato
few
beds.
companion plants
I
around
planted
my tomato
basil,
beds.
parsley,
I
and
planted
chives
basil,
first.
parsley,
The difference
and
was
chives
noticeable
first.
in just a few
The
weeks.
difference was noticeable
Tomato
in just a
flowers
few
were more
weeks.
abundant.
And
Tomato
the fruit
flowers were
tasted
more
sweeter.
abundant, and the
Then
fruit
I added
tasted sweeter. Marigolds and nasturtiums.
Then I added marigolds and
Pests that used to
nasturtiums.
chew through my leaves
Pests that
disappeared
used to
almost
chew through my
overnight.
leaves disappeared
Garlic
almost
and onions
overnight.
added an invisible
Garlic
layer
and
of
onions
protection.
added an invisible
When
layer
borage,
of protection.
clover, and beans were
When
interplanted,
borage, clover,
the plants
and
became
beans were
stronger,
interplanted,
almost
the
as if
plants
they were
became
feeding
stronger,
each other, almost as if they
Radishes
were
created
feeding each other.
channels in the soil for
Radishes
roots to
created
expand,
channels in
and
the
water
soil
to
for
flow
roots to
deeper,
expand,
and
and
suddenly
water to
watering
flow
became
deeper,
easier,
and suddenly
more
watering
efficient.
became easier and
It didn't
more
stop
efficient.
there.
Lettuce and
It
spinach
didn't stop there.
thrived in the shade of tomato
Lettuce
leaves,
and spinach
giving me
thrived in
fresh
the shade of
greens to
tomato
harvest
leaves,
while
giving
protecting
me
the soil.
fresh greens to harvest
Kale
while
acted
protecting
as
the
a
soil.
decoy,
diverting
Kale
insects
acted
from
as
the
a
fruit.
decoy,
diverting
Sweet alyssum
insects
and
from the fruit.
calendula covered the soil.
Sweet alyssum and
Reducing
calendula
evaporation,
covered the soil,
attracting
reducing
beneficial
evaporation,
insects, and creating a
attracting
microclimate
beneficial
that tomatoes
insects,
loved,
and creating a
Carrots and
microclimate that
celery
tomatoes
ensured
loved.
that roots stayed aerated,
Carrots and celery
soil
ensured that
moisture
roots stayed
remained
aerated,
balanced,
and soil
Peppers
moisture
grew
remained
side by side with
balanced.
tomatoes,
Peppers
benefiting
grew
from the
side
shared
by side with
environment and
tomatoes,
enhancing
benefiting
overall
from the
growth.
shared environment and
When all
enhancing
20
overall
plants
growth.
are in place,
You
when
don't
all
just see
20
growth,
plants are in
you
place.
feel it.
You don't just see
The
growth.
energy in the garden
You
is
feel
different.
it.
There's a vibrancy
The
that comes
energy in
from
the
a
garden is different.
self-sustaining
There's a
ecosystem.
vibrancy that comes from a
The tomato
self-sustaining
sustaining
ecosystem, growing
The
stronger and
tomatoes seem
healthier
to
each
sense
day,
it.
growing
Fruit
stronger
sets
and
faster
healthier each day.
Leaves stay green,
Fruit
and
sets
blooms
faster,
continue
leaves
to
stay
appear
green,
well
and
into the
blooms
season.
continue to
Even
appear
pests seem
well
less
into the
interested
season.
because there's so
Even
much
pests seem
competition
less
and
interested
natural
because
repellents
there's so much
surrounding your
competition
plants.
and natural repellents
Let's take a closer
surrounding
look
your
at some of the
plants.
hidden benefits.
Let's take a
One of
closer
the
look at
biggest
some of the
advantages
hidden
is
benefits.
soil health.
One of the
Companion
biggest
plants
advantages
like
is
clover,
soil health.
beans, borage,
Companion
and
plants
radishes
like clover,
enrich the
beans,
soil in ways
borage,
fertilizer
radishes
never could.
enrich the soil
They
in
fix
ways
nitrogen,
fertilizer never
aerate
could.
the soil,
and
they
release
fix
nitrogen,
creating a
aerate the
nutrient-rich
soil, and
environment
release
that
minerals,
tomatoes
creating a
thrive in.
nutrient-rich environment
Over time,
that
your soil
tomatoes
becomes
thrive
richer,
in.
healthier,
Over
and more
time, your soil
productive.
becomes richer.
You'll notice that
Each
healthier
season
and
your
more
tomatoes
productive.
perform better than the
You'll
last.
notice that each
Even
season
without
your tomatoes
adding chemical
perform better than the
fertilizers.
last, even without
Another
adding
key benefit
chemical
is
fertilizers.
pest control. Companion
Another
plants
key benefit
act as
is
natural
pest
deterrents.
control. Companion
Marigolds,
plants act as
garlic,
natural
onions, and
deterrents.
nasturtiums,
Marigolds,
layers
garlic,
of defense
onions,
that
and
confuse,
nasturtiums
repel,
create
or
layers
attract
of
pests
defense
away
that
from
confuse,
tomatoes.
repel, or attract
Ladybugs,
pests
lace
away
wings,
from
and
tomatoes.
hoverflies arrive naturally.
Ladybugs,
Thanks
lace
to
wings,
parsley,
and hoverflies
chives,
arrive
borage,
naturally.
sweet
Thanks
alyssum,
to
and
parsley,
calendula.
chives, borage.
These insects
Sweet
keep
alyssum
aphids,
and
whiteflies,
calendula
and thrips under control.
These insects keep
You no
aphids,
longer need
whiteflies,
harsh
and
chemical
thrips under
sprays
control.
because the garden
no
is
longer need
protecting
harsh
itself.
chemical sprays because the
Pollination
garden
is another hidden
protecting
advantage.
itself. Chives,
Pollination
borage,
is another
sweet
hidden
alyssum,
advantage.
calendula,
Chives,
and marigolds
borage,
all
sweet
attract
alyssum,
pollinators
calendula,
that actively
and
increase
marigolds
fruit set.
all attract pollinators
When
that
bees and
actively
hoverflies
increase
visit
fruit
flowers
set.
regularly,
When
tomatoes
bees and
produce
hoverflies
more fruit
visit
and
flowers
ripen
regularly,
faster.
tomatoes
You'll
produce
notice
more
a
fruit
dramatic
and
difference
ripen
in
faster.
both quantity and
You'll notice a
quality of your
dramatic
harvest.
difference in both
Some
quantity
gardeners don't
and
realize that
quality
planting
of
the
your
right
harvest.
companion plants is
Some
more
gardeners
effective than
don't realize that
pollination.
planting the right
Artificial
companion
plants
plants
is more effective than
Nature
hand
does
pollination
the work
or
for
artificial
you
methods
if you set up the right environment.
Nature does the work
Water
for you
management is
if you
also
set up the
improved
right
with
environment.
companion planting.
Plants
Water
like
management
radishes,
is also
lettuce,
improved with
spinach,
companion planting.
sweet alyssum and
Plants like
calendula
radishes
help
lettuce,
retain
spinach,
moisture in the
sweet
soil.
alyssum and calendula
Radishes create
help
channels
retain
that allow
moisture
water
in
to
the
reach
soil.
deep roots. Radishes
Ground
create
covering
channels
plants
that
reduce
allow water to reach
evaporation.
deep roots.
And leafy greens
Ground
shade
covering
the soil,
plants reduce evaporation.
keeping temperature stable.
And leafy greens
When
shade
roots
the
have
soil.
consistent moisture,
Keeping temperature
fruit
stable.
cracking is minimized.
When roots have
growth
consistent
accelerates,
moisture,
and tomato
fruit cracking
plants
is
are less
minimized.
stressed.
Growth accelerates.
Another remarkable
tomato
effect
plants
is
are
how
less
the garden
stressed.
looks and feels.
Another remarkable
a bed
effect
planted
is
with
how
these
the
companions
garden
looks
is not
and
just productive,
feels.
it's
A
beautiful.
bed planted with these
Colorful
companions
flowers
is
like
not just
marigolds,
productive, it's
nasturtiums,
beautiful.
borage, and calendula
Colorful flowers
provide a
like
visual
marigolds,
feast,
nasturtiums,
while
borage,
green
and
herbs and leafy
calendula
vegetables
provide a
create
visual
texture and
feast.
variety.
While green
This
herbs and
beauty
leafy
isn't
vegetables create
superficial,
texture
it's
and variety.
functional.
The
This
garden
beauty
is a
isn't
well-designed
superficial,
ecosystem
it's
that
functional.
supports tomatoes.
The
while
garden is a
being
well-designed
visually pleasing.
ecosystem
A
that
beautiful
supports
garden
tomatoes
also
while
encourages
being
more
visually
time spent
pleasing.
tending to plants.
A beautiful
which further
garden
improves
also
care
encourages
and
more
attention.
time spent tending to
Now,
plants.
some gardeners
which worry
worry
that
that planting
planting 20
care and attention
different companions sounds
Now,
complicated.
some gardeners worry that
But it's
planting
actually
20 different
simpler than it
companions
seems. Sounds
Think
complicated.
in layers, but it's actually
Ground cover
simpler
like
than it
clover,
seems.
sweet alyssum
Think
and
in layers.
calendula goes on the soil.
Ground cover like clover,
Herbs like
sweet
basil,
alyssum, and
parsley,
calendula
chives
goes
goes on the
oregano
soil.
can fill spaces
Herbs
around
like
tomato
basil,
stems.
parsley, chives,
Flowers
and
like
oregano
marigolds
can fill
and
spaces
nasturtiums
around
and
tomato
borage
stems.
provide vertical interest
Flowers
and
like
attract
marigolds,
pollinators.
nasturtiums, and borage
Vegetables like
provide
lettuce,
vertical interest
spinach,
and attract
kale,
pollinators.
carrots, celery, and peppers
Vegetables
fill
like
the
lettuce,
gaps and create
spinach,
functional
kale,
layers.
carrots,
By
celery, and
understanding
peppers
the
fill
natural
the gaps
relationships
and create
between
functional
plants,
layers.
you can create a
By
thriving
understanding the
system without
natural
overcrowding your
relationships between
chaos.
plants,
You can
Spacing
create a
is critical,
thriving
but
system without
easy to
overcrowding
manage.
your chaos.
Allow tomatoes enough space
Spacing
to
is
spread their
critical,
roots
but
and
easy
canopy.
to manage.
Allow
Interplant
tomatoes
herbs and
enough
flowers
space
in
to
small
spread their
clusters.
roots and canopy.
Lettuce, spinach, and kale can grow
Interplant
beneath
herbs
the
and flowers in small
canopy.
clusters.
Ground cover plants should
Lettuce,
form a
spinach,
loose
and kale
carpet
can
to
grow
retain
beneath the
moisture.
canopy.
Carrots
Ground
and
cover
celery should
plants
have
should
room
form
for
a
roots
loose
to expand
carpet
to
and
retain
water
moisture.
to flow deeper.
Carrots and celery should
suddenly
have room for
watering
roots to
became
expand
easier
and
and
water
more
to flow
efficient.
deeper. And suddenly
didn't stop
watering
there.
became easier
Seasonal care
and more
becomes
efficient
simpler
with companion planting.
It didn't stop there.
Watering is more efficient.
Seasonal care
Soil
becomes
nutrients are
simpler with
naturally
companion
replenished.
planting.
Pests
Watering
are
is
under
more
control,
efficient.
and pollination
Soil
is
nutrients are
abundant.
naturally replenished.
This means you spend
Pests
less
are
time
under control,
troubleshooting
and
problems
pollination
and
is
more time
abundant.
enjoying the results.
This means you spend less
tomatoes
time
grow stronger,
troubleshooting problems,
healthier,
and
with
more time
minimal
enjoying the
intervention,
results.
and your garden
Your tomatoes grow
operates as a
stronger,
self-sustaining
healthier with
system.
minimal intervention.
By the end of the
and your
season,
garden
you'll notice
operates
the
as a
difference in both
self-sustaining
quality
system
and quantity.
By the end of the season,
You'll
let's
notice
talk
the
results.
difference in both quality
After implementing
and
this
quantity.
companion planting system, I've
Let's
seen
talk
tomatoes
results.
produce
After
consistently
implementing
larger
this
fruit,
companion planting
up to
system,
twice the normal
I've seen
size in
tomatoes
some
produce
cases.
consistently
Flavor is
larger
noticeably
fruit, up
sweeter
to
and more
twice the normal
complex.
size in some cases.
Pest damage is
Flavor
minimal,
is
and
noticeably
fewer flowers
sweeter
fail to
and
set
more
fruit.
complex.
Soil health
Pest damage is minimal,
season,
and
making
fewer
future
flowers fail
plantings
to set
even
fruit.
more productive.
Soil health
Harvest
improves
are
each
longer,
season,
the
making
plants
future
remain
plantings
vigorous,
even
and
more
the entire
productive.
garden feels
Harvest are
alive and
longer,
thriving.
the plants remain vigorous.
The real magic,
and
however,
the entire
is
garden
the
feels
balance.
alive and
Companion
thriving.
planting creates harmony
The real
between
magic,
all
however,
elements
is
in the garden.
the balance.
Tomatoes aren't just
Companion
surviving,
planting creates
they're
harmony
thriving
between
because
all
elements
elements
in the
in the
garden
garden. Tomatoes
Tomatoes
aren't
aren't
just
surviving,
some fix
they're
nitrogen,
thriving
some improve
because
soil
each plant
structure,
contributes
some
something
provide
shade, some attract
some fix
pollinators,
nitrogen,
and some
repel
improve
pests.
soil structure.
Some of these parts is
some
far
attract
greater than
pollinators,
any single
and some
plant
repel
on its own.
pests.
The
Nature
sum of
is
these
smart,
parts
is far
and when you
greater
work
than
with
any single plant on its own.
Incredible.
Nature is
One
smart.
of the most overlooked
and when you work with
aspects
it,
is the rewards
observation.
are incredible.
Watch how each
One
plant
of the most
interacts with the
overlooked
tomatoes.
aspects is
Take notes on which
observation.
combinations perform
Watch
best,
how each
which
plant
attract the most
interacts with the
beneficial
tomatoes.
insects,
Take
and which
notes on which
repel
combinations
pests
perform
perform
best,
best,
which attract the
Gardens
most
are
beneficial
dynamic
insects,
systems,
and which
each
repel
season
pests
offers
the most
new
effectively.
insights.
By learning
Gardens
from your
are dynamic
observations and
systems,
adjusting
and
accordingly,
each season
you'll
offers
refine
new
your system
insights.
and increase
By
your
learning
harvest
from your
year after
observations
year.
and adjusting accordingly,
This approach
you'll
also
refine
makes
your
gardening
system
more
and increase your
enjoyable.
harvest year
There's less
after
stress
year.
about pests.
This approach also makes gardening more enjoyable
and more satisfaction.
There's less stress
watching
about
your plants
pests.
thrive
Less
naturally.
worry about
The
fertilization
garden becomes
schedules,
a playground
and more
of discovery,
satisfaction
where you
watching
learn
the
the
relationships
relationships
between
between
plants,
and the garden
experience
becomes
the
a
rewards
playground of
firsthand.
discovery,
where you learn the relationships between plants,
each
and
experiment
produces
rewards
beautiful,
firsthand.
productive results.
Each season is an experiment.
Finally,
and each
let's bring it all
experiment
together.
produces beautiful,
Planting 20
productive
companion
results.
crops with your tomatoes.
Finally,
let's bring it all
transforms your
together.
garden.
Planting
becomes an
20
ecosystem that
companion crops
supports
with your
itself,
tomatoes
maximizes yield,
transforms your garden,
improves flavor.
It becomes an
reduces
ecosystem that
pests,
supports
and
itself,
increases soil
maximizes
fertility.
yield.
Each
Improves
plant plays a
flavor,
role,
each
which
contributes
contributes
to
to the growth of
and
tomatoes,
increases
and
soil
together
fertility.
they create harmony.
Each plant plays a role.
This system
each
saves money,
contributes to the growth of
reduces
tomatoes,
labor,
and together they create
extraordinary
harmony.
results.
This
tomatoes
system
grow
saves
stronger,
money,
reduces
healthier,
labor,
and more
produces
flavorful than ever before.
extraordinary results.
And the best part,
the tomatoes grow
once you
stronger,
set it up,
healthier,
the garden
and more
practically
flavorful
takes
than
care
ever
of itself.
before.
And the
So
best
here's
part,
your action plan.
once you set it up,
Start by
the garden
planting your
practically
tomatoes.
takes care of
Surround
itself.
them with herbs like basil,
So here's your action
parsley,
plan. Chives,
Start
and
by
oregano.
planting your tomatoes.
Add flowers,
Surround
such
them
as
with
marigolds,
herbs like basil,
nasturtiums,
parsley,
borage, and
chives,
calendula.
and oregano. Interplant
Add flowers,
beans,
radishes,
such as marigolds,
clover,
nasturtiums,
lettuce,
spinach,
borage, and calendula.
kale,
Carrots and
Interplant
celery
beans,
strategically.
radishes, clover,
Observe your
lettuce,
garden,
spinach,
adjust spacing
kale,
and placement as
carrots,
needed,
and celery
let the plants
strategically.
interact naturally.
Observe your garden, watch
Adjust
as your
spacing
tomatoes
and placement as
explode
needed,
with growth,
and let
flavor,
the plants
and fruit
interact
production.
naturally. Share your results
Watch
in
as
the
your
comments,
tomatoes
and
explode
don't forget to
with
subscribe
growth,
for more tips
flavor,
on growing
and
a
fruit
thriving
production.
garden on a budget.
Share your results in the
By
comments.
following this
And
system,
don't forget to
you're not just
subscribe for
planting
more
tomatoes,
tips on growing a
you're
thriving
creating a
garden
garden
on
that
a
grows
budget.
smarter.
Works
By following
harder
this
and
system,
rewards
you're
you
not
with
just
abundance.
planting tomatoes.
Each
You're
season
creating
your
a
plants
garden
will
that
become
grows
stronger,
smarter.
your
Works
soil's
harder
richer,
and
and your
rewards you with
harvest larger.
abundance. Companion
Each
planting
season
your
isn't a
plants will become
trend or a
stronger.
gimmick.
Your
It's
soil
the way
richer,
nature
and your
intended
harvest
plants
larger.
to grow.
Companion
And when
planting
you embrace
isn't
a trend
you'll
or a
see
gimmick,
why experienced
it's the
gardeners
way
rave
nature
about the results.
intended plants to grow.
Your garden is waiting.
And when you embrace it,
The tomatoes
you'll
are ready
see
to
why
thrive.
experienced gardeners
and
rave
now,
about the
armed
results.
with 20 powerful
Your garden
companion
is
crops,
waiting.
you're ready
The tomatoes
to
are
take
ready
your
to
garden
thrive.
to a whole
And
new
now,
level.
armed with
Plant
20
wisely,
powerful companion
observe
crops,
closely. You're
and
ready to
enjoy
take
the
your garden
amazing
to a
transformation
whole new
that comes
level.
when your garden
Plant
works
wisely,
with nature
observe
instead of
closely,
against it.
and enjoy
This
the
is
amazing
Urban
transformation
Eden
that
Garden,
comes when your garden
where
works
small
with
spaces,
nature instead
tight
of against
budgets, and
This
everyday
is Urban
backyards
Eden Garden,
turn into
where small
extraordinary,
spaces,
productive
tight
gardens.
budgets,
And everyday
if you
backyards
try these
turn
companion
into
planting
extraordinary,
strategies,
productive
you'll be
gardens.
amazed
If
at
you
the
try
difference.
these companion
Your
planting
tomatoes will
strategies,
never
you'll
be
be
the same
amazed
again.
at the difference.
Your harvests
tomatoes
will
multiply,
never be the same
and
again.
your garden will
Your
feel
harvests will
alive,
multiply,
vibrant,
and your garden
full
will feel
of energy.
alive, vibrant,
Companion
and
planting
full of
isn't
energy.
just gardening.
Companion
It's gardening
planting isn't
smart.
just gardening.
Gardening
It's gardening
strategically,
smart, and
gardening in
strategically,
harmony
and
with
gardening
nature.
in harmony with nature.